We're going to talk to Charles McMichael a little about his experience with an aneurysm. Charles, could you tell us how you knew that you had an aneurysm?
Well, it started one morning when I got up to go wake the children up for school. And I was on my way back down the hall to my bedroom, and it felt like my head exploded.
Okay.
And I bent over because, you know, the pressure was so intense that I couldn't stand up no higher than 2 feet.
Okay.
Else, you know, it just was very intense. So I called out for my wife, and she came and she guided me back to the bedroom and proceeded to call that for the ambulance.
Okay.
And when the paramedics got there, you know, they knew that something was wrong because it couldn't have been a ordinary headache.
Right.
So they rushed me to the hospital, and they ran some tests.
Can you tell us, Charles, what were your thoughts once you arrived at the hospital and you were told that you had an aneurysm?
Well, I was in a lot of pain,
Okay.
and I didn't really know per se what an aneurysm was.
Okay.
But in fact, I had heard that my grandfather had passed from a massive aneurysm rupture.
Okay.
So I knew that it was something that was very serious and it needed attention immediately. So I was a little worried at first about it. And then I thought, you know, that I had been through so much, this was just something else for me to experience and have knowledge of. And, you know, I just left it in the Lord's hands at that point.
Okay, so you're saying that there was something else that you was experiencing, so that leads us to believe that there was something else going on in your body physically. Can you tell us a little bit about that when you said this was just another thing that you had to go through?
Well, I was born with sickle cell anemia,
Okay.
which is a blood disease. I was born with the disease and not the trait.
Okay.
So I was very sick when I was little. I just experienced a lot of blood transfusions as I was coming up.
Okay.
And I also have a heart murmur and a hole in my heart. So I thought it couldn't possibly be no worse than that. So, you know, I just stepped out of the Lord's way and allowed him to heal me up through the hands of the doctors.
So knowing all that, okay, you're in the hospital. They told you that you have an aneurysm. They told you what they needed to do. Did the doctors explain to you, Charles, what the procedure would be?
Yes, that they had to remove a piece of my skull, go in, find the blood vessel that was leaking,
Okay.
and they had to clamp it. And that was the gist of the procedure.
Statistically, they say with an aneurysm, there's a 50-50 chance. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes,
the
you are.
possibility is that you can make it through the surgery or you couldn't. Did the doctors convey that to you? And if they did, how did you feel once they stated that fact to you?
Well, actually, the doctor has said that, you know, once the aneurysm ruptured, that I was supposed to die.
Okay.
And, you know, and I really didn't appreciate him saying that.
Okay.
So, you know, I let him know that, you know, I didn't care if the whole hospital fell on me.
Right.
That if it wasn't my time to go, that he could clear the rubble off me and patch me up.
So naturally, I have to put myself in the doctor's position. If a patient comes in and I'm a doctor, medically, I know statistically what I'm faced with, and I convey that this is what we need to perform on you, and you come at me with a spiritual insight, a spiritual perspective, of course the doctors are going to feel a little indifferent. But what we need to understand is that we serve a big God. We serve a God that he can do all things but fail. Because the word tells us he is the doctor in the sick room. We here at The Real Praise would just like to take the time to thank you, Charles McMichael, for being a guest on The Real Praise. And we just want you to be encouraged to know that God has not brought you far to leave you. So continue to keep your trust in God and know that he loves you and he will always be here to see you through. Thank you so much. There you have it. See you next time on The Real Praise.